Hello everyone. Hope everything's going well for you and you're making good progress on your drawing efforts. What we want to do today is kind of move into a different aspect of how to look at things. Up to this point, we've been pretty much paying attention to the object itself, drawing lines to define the object. But what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of define the object, but we don't want to pay attention to it. What we want to do is start to pay attention to what's going on in the negative space. So the key words we're going to talk about today are going to be figure-ground relationship and positive negative space. So what we're going to be basically thinking of is what's the object, what's behind it, and realize that usually in a drawing that's not always a clear thing because you're making the choice as an artist what you want to make come forward, what you want to push back. So what we want to basically do is set up an arrangement, find a window somewhere. I mean, anywhere that you can. I mean, in your apartment, your dorm room. If you need to, go up to the art building. The upstairs is a great place to do these drawings because there's large windows. You can just raise the blinds and do as, set up whatever you're going to do. I'm going to show you an example in a minute. And what you're going to do is set up with your drawing pad, and this needs to be a little bit of a dedicated drawing. You shouldn't need to do too much of too many thumbnails because you already will have the arrangement set up. You can use the frame of the window as your picture plane definition, but you still want to think about how it relates to your picture plane. So what I want you to do real quick is take a look at this setup that I've done. So what I did is I went and got a jacket and a hat and a table and a rack, set it up in front of a window, letting the window be the framing of the composition that I want. Thinking kind of about how the shapes of the objects create an interesting outline, but what we're going to end up doing is working just to draw in the object to define that shape. But then the rest of the drawing, we're going to be focusing on just the background. And like I said, find any window you can, but upstairs in the art room is a great place to draw. If you need to do that or want to do that, just go by the art office and tell them you're in my drawing class and you need up there. Okay, so basically I'm having to cheat a little bit because I didn't have a place to draw from while I'm doing this video. So what I've done is I took a picture, I did my arrangement, took a photo, and now I'm just kind of drawing. I want you to do the drawing from a window. Do not cheat and use your phone because it's a whole different process. I want you to definitely set up whatever arrangement. I basically just got a table, a little rack in here, and put a jacket and one of my hats on it. So this is what you want to get. Just kind of do I kind of did a mix of what's it called? Gesture and blind contour, kind of a little bit of both. Part of this was like a quick blind contour, part of it was sort of a gesture. But what you want to do is you just want to get that overall, definition of the object. But what you have to do is think about what is object and what's going to be the actual background. So here it gets a little tricky because I've got a table. Well, I think it's going to be interesting to have this little space where the jacket and the table show the background between it. Same thing down here. What's going to be background, what's going to be foreground. So basically what I want you to do is you're going to take whatever you want. This is why I wanted you to get the woodless graphite. If you want to color it in this way, you can. But I do want you to try to be as precise with this as you can. We don't want it to be just a rush job. So this part's going to take a little time. So you can do something like this, but that's going to take a while. What I'm going to do is show you how to use well, let me do that now. So what you want to do, if you want to use your graphite, turn it sideways and just build up a surface like this. And then if you want, you can go back. This is how you use your blending stump. You just use that to kind of smooth it out. But what I find works the best is just using some charcoal. Or if you've got your graphite little sticks that look like this, that would be good. Okay, so real quickly, if you want to use some of your charcoal, because you can get a much denser black surface using charcoal, you never want to rub your finger into the material, because what you're doing is you're introducing the oils of your skin into the material, and that'll tend to actually cause it to break down over time. It'll make yellow spots. Also, what it does is it kind of creates a different medium. You end up with more of an oil-based medium because your oils of your skin start to bond with the material. Makes it harder to work with, and it just changes the whole process. So if you want to find a way to blend, you can use a blending stump, wherever I put that. You can use a blending stump with it, but what I like to do on a big area is I will just take like a paper towel, and you can blend it in that way. Now it's not dense enough, so what I would do after I do that is come back a little bit more maybe, blend that in, and you'll eventually get a fairly smooth dark surface. So what you'll do is just kind of work with that till you get it all defined. Now here's the trick. Notice how I lost that area. This is why we get kneaded eraser. Kneaded eraser will absorb things like the graphite, and not just graphite, but the charcoal. So this is a way to come in and lift back out that little area that I just went ahead and smudged in. So if you use this, you can bring that back out. Same thing with places like this. I got a little bit messy, which is okay. If I was doing a drawing that I wanted a clean background, this doesn't work. But if you're wanting to, draw around something like this doesn't have to be that precise, because we're going to end up with other drawing textures back there. So that's what you can do, is come in and clean that up. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll use my paper towel or rag on the big areas. And I like to work in different directions. Kind of helps not make it too much like a linear effect. But then what I can do is come back with this. And then if you want to get a nice crisp edge, build it up like that. Now this doesn't have to be like a fancy drawing. I'm going to let y'all just get it to where, like, if you squint and look at it, you see the definition of the object. If this was being turned in as a real, like a serious drawing, then I'd want you to get it to be about like this dark, really well defined. But basically this right now is just an exercise to get you to really pay attention to the background. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of stop and cheat and then draw the background in, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've done quite a bit of the drawing. I've got everything kind of placed here. I've got, just gestures to get the texture and maybe the line quality. I really wish I had drawn it a different window. Way too many trees and leaves. I didn't think about that. I thought it just looked great, but I wasn't thinking about how much time it's going to take to draw leaves. Now, here's something I want you to learn from me. This is a technique that I've just developed on my own over time, and I'm giving this to you. If you want to just activate the area as efficiently as possible, try to develop your own sort of shorthand, these little organic ways of drawing. Basically what I do is I just develop this quick way of creating a sort of descriptive texture that I can always go back. Like up here, I did this texture, and then what I can do is go in and say, okay, I want to define each of these leaves. But what I did is very quickly activate the area. So like here, this would be a leaf. I can draw that in and define it. If I wanted to, I could sit here and study my the photo I took and make this look photorealistic. But we don't need to do that on this drawing. But I just want you to see that once you get that gesture down, you can always go back and define things. I can always go in and say, okay, these leaves are more rounded. So what I can do is just kind of come back and put a rounded line. Down here, this bush, because it's closer, I want it to be larger grass. Just make a texture that tells you that that's grass. You don't have to make sure you draw every single blade of grass. Just give me the texture that kind of describes that that's a grass surface. Here's a shorthand for me on drawing a roof. I do the roof and then I do the direction of that plane. The wall. This is a brick house. You don't have to draw every single brick in. You just kind of give us the texture of a brick so that your mind all of a sudden assigns that area a certain texture, and it just makes it a lot easier for you as an artist. I mean, there are artists that will sit there and do photorealism, but I just want you to look and go, hey, that seems kind of like a brick or a stone textured building. Maybe it shows through here a little bit. So that's the other thing. On something like this, just like we're choosing, this is the object, this is the background. In little areas like this, that's one good thing about drawing foliage. How do you see through that? So if you want to create a space in between the foliage, having something else as another background. So that's another way up here might be easy, is if I had clouds. Let me just make a few more leaves. But if I had like clouds up there, I could carry those clouds in between the leaves. Now this works better with color, especially in painting. Actually painting the background in where it stands in front. Using these materials, you have to leave the white paper as your lighter background. But that's one thing, is once you learn how to see it and know how things exist as positive and negative, you can always come back and say, oh, I want a little space there. You erase it, and if I had a cloud back there, I'd have the blue of the sky and then the cloud. And all of a sudden, I'm putting that background in between objects, and that's how we then understand, hey, if I want to pop something out, think about what's behind it. How do I activate a background to make the object stand out? So basically, that's all I want you to do. Like I said, maybe don't pick a scene with too many trees. A couple trees in the distance, that's kind of fun. But I had way too much foliage. I could spend probably a couple hours just trying to get these leaves drawn. But I don't want it to be a finished drawing. If you want to do that, that'd be awesome. But if all you want to do is kind of get a general idea, when I look at your drawing, I want to know, hey, I'm seeing trees, and hey, I'm seeing a ground plane. Oh, there's some grass out there. Something like that. Actually, I know that the tree came down back here somewhere. I'd have to go back and look where that was. But then you just kind of find a quick way to activate it. Blend it in, maybe activate a little more. So that's basically it. Just really take your time and pay attention to how things... This object is basically the positive space that we've now made negative space. But you're drawing all of this to make that become what it's all about. So just find a place to set it up, do the drawing. I'll make it due Wednesday, and then later Wednesday. I'll give you later in the day, and then I'll give you our next step. We're about to get to the really fun stuff, but I just want to make sure you know how to see before we move on to the next. All right, thank y'all.